against each other, wrestling each other like they did with some tag teams, because I think it just insulted everything that we stood for in tag team wrestling.
Now, and I agree with that. When you went to the WWF, though, it always seemed to me, and maybe I was viewing this wrong, but as a fan, there was 2 wrestling video games of the early generation. One had Hulk Hogan on the cover. The other one was the WCW game, which had the Road Warriors on the cover. Mm-hmm. And, it seemed to me like when you guys went to WWE, they pushed you. Oh, you guys were big there and all that. But it seemed like they kind of had a glass ceiling, always trying to just a little bit keep you below the main event. And did you feel that way at all? Am I really
it's funny that you say that. Because we felt like that plenty of times. That attributes to why my partner acted the way he did a few times and was kind of rebellious. Different personal financial things we can't get into that we were promised that never happened, which really pissed Hawk off.
Yeah.
I can't give you a guaranteed contract, but I know you'll make at least this much money, and then when you fall $100,000 short, it kind of pisses the person off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but I tell you what though, it's again a tribute to the fans. They tried to, but hey, when we went over to Wembley Stadium in London, England,
oh yeah,
who was second in marketing? The Road Warriors and all our gimmicks. Who sold us? I mean, so they tried to put a cap on it a lot of times, but you know what? We just were a fan favorite and we were a kid favorite. We sold more foam rubber shoulder pads than everything else, and we would guarantee you a good show. Win, lose, draw, you're going to get a good show from us. And don't get me wrong, WWE is a great company now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they take care of the guys now. The guys get hurt, they pay for the operations, they take care of everything else. When I was going through it, I had to pay for all my own injuries. Like when Warlord landed on my head, my eye popped out, I had to pay for all my own surgery. I mean, so it's a different timing now in the wrestling business, So.
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Wembley Stadium because James and I were just talking about this match off the air, and your match with Money Inc. at that show we think is one of the best matches you had in the WWF. But I gotta ask this because that match just reminds me of this. Who came up with Rocco, and who thought that was a good idea?
Well, bro, you're being very kind. Let's be honest. That match with Money Inc. was absolutely freaking horrendous.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. We were supposed to be wrestling the Natural Disasters for the Tag Team Championships that event. What happened was my partner, if you guys know anything about drugs at all, what Placidils do for you, one Placidil will make you loopy. My partner puts 2 in his mouth and chews them, and it's like eating straight kerosene, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
This is because he and Jake Roberts and a couple other guys all knew they were going to get suspended for 3 months when we got back. Word leaked out. So Hawk figures, well, heck, I'm going to get suspended, so I might as well make this match fun. Well, as we're going through the warm-up of the matches, Hawk's on the Harley, and Vince is trying to talk to us, and he's swaying back and forth, almost going backwards downhill on the Harley. Vince looks at me, and I could tell he was just freaking livid. Vince was just livid. So to punish us, we went from semi-main event to first match.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't bad because it was a good way to start off the show. We got such an ovation when they played our music. You couldn't hear the Harley or our music because all those people in Great Britain were chanting, the LOD. And it was so loud, the cheers. I never heard anything like it to this day of how loud that was. And Hawk was so messed up during the finish, I literally had to push him out of the way and say, Hawk, move. Because they originally wanted, me to get IRS up on my shoulders, Hawk come off the top rope, and he'd do the Doomsday. Well, Hawk couldn't climb up to the top rope. Yeah, he was so messed up, and I wasn't going to take the chance of him getting hurt.
You're just amazed he was able to walk, much less wrestle a match.
People were saying they don't know how he could walk because he just kept going on and on and on all day, And it was just, but the Rocco thing, I don't know where that came from. See, every promoter we ever worked for always tried to find something to soften us a little bit because, let's face it, we came through there, and like you said, in every territory we went to or every company we went to, we just kind of ran roughshod. Not in being bullies, but the way the promoters wanted us to be, Oh, well, here come the Road Warriors. We'll draw money with these guys. Bam, 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 bam. And you're beating up. Okay, it looked like we wrestled Demolition when we came into WWF at the time.
Yeah, Actually,
we smoked Demolition, and in about a month they were gone.
Exactly. Actually, that was my next question.
But getting back to my other point there,
sure.
with the Rocco thing, that was an idea to sell for marketing-wise, to try to soften us up. That, well, let's just say that frickin' doll never made it off an airplane again after that event. That thing got lost or burnt up or something. I think I hated that thing more than anything else in the world.
So there's no like Rocco doll.
Just being honest with you, there's not going to be any Rocco Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that.
So if Mattel calls you up and say, hey, we want to do the LOD figures with a little Rocco doll accompany it, you wouldn't be a fan of that one?
Well, hey, give me $1 million up front, do what you want. I don't care. You know what I mean? But it wasn't a good part of our gimmick. But hey, at least they tried to do something. You know what I mean? And at the time, the only other tag team to work with at that time was DX. Because they were beating the heck out of the Godwins, they were beating the heck out of everybody else. And hey, there's Rocco. Oh, jeez, man.
Nice.
They should have just made a Rocco tag team. We could have wrestled them.
Oh, man. Well, there's a lot of questions I can ask you, and I mean, if we had all the time in the world, we'd ask you all of it.
Well, what was the one you had about Demolition?
Actually, Bill Eadie. He's a good friend of the show. I helped him get a couple bookings here and there, and legitimately nice guy. And when we had him on, he was pretty adamant about Demolition not being, as it was pretty much just cut and dry pasted a Road Warriors knockoff. Did you feel, you guys, that they were definitely a Demolition, what's wrong with me, Road Warriors knockoff?
No, and you know why I don't? Because A, Bill's a good friend of mine, and B, Barry's one of my best friends. Smash. So, I mean, listen, the difference between Demolition and us was, Demolition, you put two wrestlers together, you painted them up, and you had them talk like tough guys. Reverse of us was, we came right out of the bar bouncing and went into the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. So we came into the business fighting. You know what I mean by that? I mean, not as bullies, but we came in with a mindset and an attitude that was so different than everybody else's. I thought that the company missed a boat by us beating Demolition so fast and so clean and everything else. I think we could have had a year-long program with those guys and drew a lot of money for the company. But, hey, the company didn't want to have it. I don't think they were a Road Warrior knockoff. I just think they were their own gimmick in their own way. Yeah. Because you put us both next to each other, paper to paper, I mean, we pretty much stand alone as far as that kind of gimmick goes. And you know what? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, man. I mean, and Barry's one of my better friends, and so is Bill. Hey, more power to them. If they can make money to this day, be in Demolition by doing spot shows and appearances, God bless them. Let them make money. You know what I mean? I never took it personal. I never did. I know a lot of people find that, geez, how could you not be pissed at them? I'll say, hey, man, listen, everybody always remembers the original.
Exactly, yeah.
There's never going to be another Rock. There's never going to be another Hulk Hogan. Probably never be another Nature Boy. There's never going to be another Road Warriors.
No.
It's just something that's always going to go down in the annals of history. It is something that was special, and it was because of great fans that made it special,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Actually, going back to what you said, one of the things that I've always argued is that I felt like you and Demolition should have had a match at WrestleMania 7. That's something that they should have built to.
I agree with you. Or at minimum, what you could have done, even before Crush, you could have had an 8-man tag or something. And it sounds ridiculous, but it worked in WCW when they had the 6-man championship belts, and we had it with Dusty. You could have made 8-man belts and had Demolition and us on the same team. You know what I mean? Ooh. Like you could have made a pay-per-view out of the 8-man tag team championships, and you have everybody in the company go on 4-man teams and see who's the best 4-man team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been a great idea, but, hey, what do we know? We're just wrestlers. We don't know how to draw money. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's one thing that could have been that, and the fact that when Hogan was still with WWE, they should have put us in a 6-man with Hogan. We should have been he should have been getting his butt kicked, and he should have said, hey, I'm bringing in some partners for you guys, and that's the way they should have introduced us into the company. We come in as Hogan's partners. Hogan gets the win. We just help him kick some rear end. And next thing you know, everything's cool and dreamy, and now you're making money for the company. But, hey, who knows why things are done the way they are sometimes.
they had you with Warrior against Demolition, like the MSG loop, and that was those
That
were
was
some
stupid.
matches. You didn't like
That was
those?
stupid. No, I didn't like them because Animal Hawk, you can't do any clothesline because Warrior does clothesline. Animal, you can't press slam and drop a guy behind you because Warrior does it. Animal, you can't do the flying shoulder because Warrior does it. Well, where do you think Warrior got them all from? From watching the Road Warriors. Come on, man. Every move he got from watching us, you know. I said, now we had to change our repertoire. I hated those matches because Hawk and I really couldn't be us.
Oh, boy.
I mean, seriously, here we are in a six-man match against Demolition and Madison Square Garden, one of the meccas of wrestling, right?
Right.
And Hawk and I are on the outside of the ring, and Warrior's beating up all three of them by themselves. Well, what do you need us for? we could have got tickets and had a soda pop and been in the front row eating a bag of popcorn and watching ourselves.
Yep, there you go. I do have to ask you, and I don't know that you were around him. Well, you were around him some, but I don't know about that much. But I got to ask you, everybody's got an Andre story. Did you have any Andre stories?
Yeah, I got a pretty good Andre story.
What story you got?
Andre was a true giant, okay?
Yes, sir.
I'll give you an Andre story. I didn't have any problems with Andre. You know, we ran down a couple times when, I forget who was jumping him, Nasty Boys or something. We helped Andre, and Andre always liked us. And but I'll give you a story. We're in London, England. We're on the bus. Everybody's on the bus, and Flair's the last one. I'm on before Flair. There's nowhere else to sit except next to Andre. So I take the seat, sit in the booth next to Andre, which is very, as you can imagine, with Andre in the booth, there's very little for my butt cheek to sit on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Flair comes in, he looks at me, he just starts cracking up. He says, Animal, you look like a ventriloquist dummy on Andre's lap. and I did. And I looked next to the giant, and my head's about half the size of Andre's, and I was about 320 at the time. And that's how big Andre was. He made me look tiny sitting next to Andre.
Wow.
You know, and then there was another time when we were in Tokyo. There's this place called the Pink Pussycat.
Is it? Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Andre had a girlfriend that ran the Pink Pussycat. And so it was our first time over in Japan, and Hawk and I we don't know where we're going. We're just walking, trying to find a way back to the hotel from Ribera Steakhouse. And all of a sudden, we see these pink lights in the champagne glass. Hawk goes, Animal, that's the Pink Pussycat. Let's stop in there. That's famous for all the boys stop in there. I said, oh, okay. We go in there. There's like 5 stools, and in the corner is the giant sitting there with this Japanese girl feeding him drinks. I mean, he was just amazingly huge, Andre was. It was funny to see him in those situations because, you know, the Japanese people are petite people for the most part, you know.
Yeah, they're usually smaller, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and there's Andre, just a massive giant in a corner, and that was the very first time we met Andre.
Oh, wow. And he always liked you guys then?
Yeah, we never had a problem with Andre.
Cool.
You know, hey, he's one of those guys, you respect the giant, respect what he did, and do whatever he asks, and you're okay.
Very cool. Well, I got only a few more questions for you, then we'll let you go for the evening. But, you know, one of the things that I found very cool about it is that Paul Ellering wrote the foreword on your book. And, you know, Paul Ellering has kind of been, for whatever reason, not as remembered as he probably should be in the modern era of wrestling. How important was Paul Ellering to the Road Warriors?
Paul Ellering was the only, and I say only, real manager in professional wrestling. And what I mean by that is when we were working independence after working for Georgia Championship Wrestling and the NWA, Paul would book us in places like Japan, and we would work in Montreal, we would work up for the Rougeaus for the whole summer. Paul would book us, work out the money deals, everything, and we would just go and he'd say, hey, you got to be at the airport this day. And we'd go today, and he'd get all the tickets squared away and do everything for us. He even helped us out with the old, you know, the business napkin presentation, you know. Sit at the table, he'd throw out a napkin on the table. He says, okay, listen, you guys are looking like a couple cluster, you know what's in the ring. Animal, you're here. Hawk, you're here outside. Animal, bring the guy over, tag Hawk, throw him in, drop down. Hawk, you kick the guy. You know, we worked on high spots and different things to do in the ring, sitting around at a table, which I guarantee hardly anybody ever did with their managers, because most of the time in this business, the manager is just an add-on to your gimmick. With Ellering, he was a shooting part of the Road Warriors.
There you go.
You know.
And he eventually came in the WWF, but at first they didn't bring him in. You know, why didn't they bring him in right away?
Who knows? That could be pissed off at Hawk, or, you know, who knows why things happen at the time. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
The only smart, logical thing is that you bring them in with the Road Warriors. I mean, if you introduce them later, you don't bring them in with DOA. You bring them in with the Road Warriors.
Mm-hmm. Now, I got one last question, and then I'll hand